totally understand, and I would like to expand a little bit. It's very interesting that you are asked this question, and it's also about vocabulary. And I'm using here a very specific vocabulary in the context of Evolutionary Enlightenment of Andrew Cohen's teaching. And I was thinking before the session today, it would probably be good to explain some of the terms, not because they are exactly how they have to be used, more to clarify how I use them when I talk here or when I answer questions, and also how we use it in Evolutionary Enlightenment. And this distinction that you are pointing to is actually a very important one. And let me just take 5 minutes to go into the definition of 4 different selves or expressions of self that we use in Evolutionary Enlightenment. And 2 of them are ego-bound, or what we would call ego, and 2 are absolute selves. And they are called positive ego, negative ego, true self, and authentic self. So in that sense, the authentic self in our vocabulary is a term that we use. And I know the word authentic is used in many different ways and many different occasions, but we use it as a very specific thing that I want to explain. And let me start with the 2 egos. So there is the negative ego. That's pretty easy to relate to. The negative ego is everything that makes us contracted, that makes us victimized, that makes us less than we could be, one could say. But also negative ego is also everything that goes in the direction of arrogance, of overestimating who we are and what we are and how far developed we are. But then on the other side, negative ego is also when we don't have any self-confidence, when we put ourselves down, when we don't feel worthy. So on both sides, there is negative ego, either by underestimating ourselves or overestimating ourselves. Or a slightly different way to express negative ego is everything that separates us from the world, from everything, from other human beings, from the world, from nature, from the universe, from the galaxy. So everything that separates us, that makes us small and separate, is we call negative ego. And whenever we refer to ego kind of in a negative way, or that ego has to be transcended, we mean the negative ego has to be transcended. The positive ego, on the other hand, is our individuation, that you also pointed beautifully to it, where we grow during our life, the life experiences we go through, the self-confidence that we develop, and the human beings that we become at our best when we are not contracted into our negative egos. And that's the part that doesn't have to leave. That part we need to actually be able to hold the higher states of consciousness that are accessible through a spiritual path. And we want the positive ego to be as beautifully developed as possible. And I don't know if you are also integrally informed, Wilbur, and structure stages or spiral dynamic.
No.
In that framework of philosophy, that part of ego development is called growing up, versus the spiritual states are called waking up. So I'm making a distinction here also between waking up and growing up. But these 2 egos are the only 2 egos that we are talking about here in this context for now. The negative ego that we want to become aware of, at least, and not act from it. I'm not sure that we ever can completely overcome it, but we want to become aware. We want to be able to see it and not act from it. That's probably a good way to put it. And the positive ego is our shining positive individuality that we want to use to be beautiful human beings doing beautiful things in the world. So that's the two selves in the relative world, in the manifest world. And these two selves are there if we are on a spiritual path or not. It's structures in ourselves that are there. And then I want to describe the two absolute selves, the true self and the authentic self. And the true self is the self, the I amness that we can experience in deep meditation. When we meditate deeply and go beyond the mind, and meditation is always going beyond the mind, then we enter that space of liberated freedom in silence, in being, in timeless, formless emptiness that seems to be or reveals itself to be the ground of our being. There is no movement there. There is no manifest world there. There is pure emptiness. And this can be experienced in deep meditation. And that's what we call the true self. And then when we get up from the meditation cushion, we want to keep this recognition of oneness that has revealed itself in the true self, because the true self is a recognition of there is only one, and I am that one. And when we get up from the meditation cushion, we want to stay with that oneness, but not in silence and nothingness, but in the recognition that we are also the creator of the world, that this oneness continues into the manifest world, and that who we are deep down is the animating spirit that created the universe and is creating the universe. And that's where, from this quote, the obligation or the recognition of our responsibility comes in. And this higher state of being able to keep the awareness of the oneness into the manifest world, into how we live our world, this state, and I'm calling it a state, this state we call the state of the authentic self. And that state of the authentic self, when we get up from the meditation cushion and live our so-called daily lives, this state of the authentic self then falls on to our ego structure, hopefully positive ego structure, and shines through that positive ego structure and gives it this vibration that you can feel when you meet a person that is fully awake to the authentic self, that has this higher state shining through him or her. Then you can feel it. It's vibrating. It's alive. It's leaning into the excitement of creating and co-creating with other people. And when this expression of the authentic self meets other expressions of the authentic self, when we all awake to this authentic self, then we come together as one, but totally in our individuality and in our sovereignty. And that's where so much magic can happen, when we come together in the recognition of there is only one spirit, there is only one thing happening, there is only one process moving forward, and we are that. And then we meet in this recognition as sovereign, individualist human beings and start to interact from this non-separate place of identity. Then arises this possibility of creating a totally new culture together in cooperation, in this recognition.